So why the animosity? Why the disdain for other people with the exact same intentions and objectives as them? I just couldn't get it. I just couldn't. It just blew my mind.
Well, I thank you for bringing up that kind of real world example, because really this is what Vladimir Lenin is talking about in his book Left Wing Communism and Infantile Disorder, because effectively what he says is this sort of elitist attitude, it leads the people that were of his time, whether you're talking about his direct oppositions and socialist and communist way of thinking, which is the Mensheviks, or those that kind of portrayed the cause, which was the Socialist Democratic Party that was in Germany, like your Kortskys and all of that. He basically kind of divides them into two groups. So you have the group which is your elitists, like the group that you were probably mentioning that you met recently, that says, this is my way of doing it, either it's my way or the highway. Or you have a group that ultimately they rise to a certain amount of power and they ultimately betray their group. They actually side with the bourgeoisie or whoever's in power. And at least when I was reading the book, he does it in a very fascinating way, because where he divides all of the chapters is all of these things that a socialist would think, huh? Like, what? Why are you saying that? So effectively, he goes in one chapter, oh, do you work with reactionary trade unions? And take this into consideration that previously we've talked about how Rosa Luxemburg have said, well, trade unions are part of the reformist mindset, so you shouldn't really work with them, or at least they're working against the cause. Then in another chapter, he talks about, well, should you work within a parliament, especially one that is run by the Tsar and is basically a sham? And then, like in one of the last few chapters, he goes, well, do you work with the bourgeoisie? And in each chapter, he says exactly the opposite of what you'd think. And he goes, in each chapter, yes, you should. But, the first reaction that these initial two groups that I was telling you about, the elitist and the betrayer, they would be like, oh, you're betraying the cause. What are you doing, Lenin? But he each time says, no, you don't quite understand what I'm saying. By putting for the elitist, by putting yourself in the box, you're not actually increasing class consciousness. All you're doing is basically creating an echo chamber, and you're not really achieving anything.
Right.
And for the reformist, or at least the betrayer, effectively what they've done is they've lost sight of what's important, in the sense of, okay, so you've increased class consciousness, you've come to the first sign of seizing power. So say, for example, there was a certain treaty that needed to be signed. What Lenin is saying is the difference between the Bolsheviks and, at the very least, what happened to the German Social Democratic Party is, when it came to a treaty in between 1905 up until the October Revolution, Lenin and the Bolsheviks looked at the treaty and was like, okay, ultimately, is this increasing class consciousness, and is this signing this treaty, is it betraying the masses and the proletarians? And they made sure that before signing this, was this consistent with, bringing the proletariat and the vanguard and the masses forward? So there's nothing wrong with a tactical retreat. There's nothing wrong with a Sun Tzu art of war, changing tact and basically, gathering your losses, and then in a situation like the October Revolution, rising up again. There's nothing wrong with that. But what is wrong is betraying the proletarian vanguard, betraying the masses and the peasantry. That's where there's something different, because there's a difference between making a tactical retreat and betraying your values.